Okay. Hello. Okay, so let's just grab this, and then I'll move it over here. All right, there we go. All right, so Mel Buttons. Let's see. All right, so you guys should really kind of create some Mel Buttons. Actually, let's put it down here. I'll just keep moving it around, just because I know you guys like to see me. Here's Ninja. Ninja. Okay, so set up your rig, whatever rigs you're using. These are Mel buttons. I'm going to go over real quick. Okay, so so you can have a Mel button that selects your whole character. You can have a Mel button that just grabs the two spines for your character. In this case, you can have something that Z's out the characters. I call the Z core. It Z's out and zeroes out the rotates in the torso, so that I can then repose it quickly. I can Z out the facial expression too, so I can repose it quickly. I can just grab the head and the neck to rotate them together. I can grab the right fingers if I wanted to be able to fan and rotate all those finger controls. I can grab just the upper part of the body, okay, to be able to move this pose a little bit to the left or to the right or up or down. Right thumb, but you can see there's a lot of stuff in here that you can be using as you work. Anything you do more than once or twice or 3 times, make a Mel button of it. So as you guys hopefully know by now, you're going to use the script editor for that. You can kind of see that right down here under your preferences. You can find that tab there if your command line is open. If you can't see that, you can find it also under Windows, General Editors, Script Editor. Okay. Now, we're not going to be scripting or writing anything. We're just going to be copying from the top, what's called the history panel. Okay. All right. Let me launch something I can draw. Just point out real quick. All right. Alrighty then. There. Okay. So a couple of things just to point out real quick. This. And the one right next to it. So these two guys is really all you're going to have to need to know. Okay, you can find them also in the menu here, but the top one, if you the top right one I pointed out here, if I click that one, it's going to just delete out everything that's in the history panel. The history panel is just basically it's recording everything you do, line by line of code. Okay, so we're not writing it, we're going to be just doing stuff, creating a list and then turning that into a Mel button. Okay, when we want to create a Mel button, we're going to select whatever list we've created, and that's where we're going to hit the one right next to that, save script to shelf, and this is going to put it up on the shelf that we're working from. Okay, my cat's a little ornery today for some reason. Eep. All right. Another thing too, you guys might want to make a new shelf. So in the shelf menu, you can find that little gear right here. So you can just click on that, boom, and you can go down to new shelf. It will give you a little panel here, and we'll just call this demo and hit OK. So that's going to give us a demo tab, which is a new shelf. Okay. So now that we're on this shelf, anything we create, we're going to put, and we'll be putting it on that shelf that we're working from. Okay. So let's just create a select all. So a simple select all to make, depending on your preference. We want to select all the control curves on the character, right? So you guys know the selection sets masks up here, these blue guys right here. So we can hit that triangle icon right next to it and say all objects off. That means we can't select anything in Maya, because those selections right here, they basically represent everything from geometry to joints to controls. Okay, so we're just going to turn back on the controls, which is that little SE guy there. Okay, that means when we marquee select, click and drag, that's going to select just the controls, and we know that we can't select anything else in our scene but the controls that are on our character. So we know that that's going to select our whole character. Okay, so that's how we're going to make this, but we want to clean this up first. So whenever you make your Mel buttons too, select something random, doesn't matter what it is in your scene, select it, go and then hit and clear out that history, and then just click out in space to deselect. So our first line of code says select clear. That's deselect what you're doing, drop what you're doing, Maya, and now do this. Now I'm going to marquee select my character, make sure I have them in the window, whoop, and I grab them. Now I don't need the main control curve in this, so I'm going to actually deselect that. Anything you don't want to select to, you can just hold down control and deselect. So even if I don't want like these little X's on him, These guys here, you don't need to key them anyhow. So you could deselect that, deselect that. Any of these guys, these are the IKFK switches that are on the character. There are ones too for his arms and his legs. Where are the other ones? I thought he had more. That's the hips, that's the arms. Where are the legs? Oh, there they are right there next to his hands. Okay, so control, pop, bang. And the other one must be in the area too. Where did I get it? Okay, let's pretend I got it. Doesn't matter anyhow. So once I've got everything I said, because this will actually work, it'll select everything and then it'll deselect, and that will be my selection. Okay. Now I can just either hit Command A in here, or just click and hold and drag up to select everything there. You have to highlight everything to put it in a Mel button. I'll hit that Save Script to Shelf button here. Boom. And that will turn around and give me a window so I can name this, and I'll just call this Cell All. Okay, it only gives you about 4 or 5 characters to put on your Mel button. So once I hit OK, it will ask me if it's a Python or a Mel command, and it's Mel command, so let's choose Mel, and it'll create your Mel button there. Okay. Now too, once you create a Mel button, it should work. If you hit it, it should run it, and what you'll even see, if I even clear out my history here, if I hit that Mel button, I'll see the same line of code. Select clear and select and then deselect, right? I can also right click on that Mel button, go to edit, and I can find, basically it brings me into the shelf editor, which is where we were before, which is, you can find under that same what you call navigation wheel over here, and it's called the shelf editor. It's just going to bring you to the main page of the shelf editor, and where we were just now, we were in the demo, and we were in, as you can see here, we're seeing that we're on the demo, which is that tab, the shelf we just made, and this is select all, which is the Mel button we made. Now all I have to do is go to the command tab in here, and it brings me right to the code I just put into that. Okay, this is sort of a right click. Edit is a shortcut to bring us to just where we are on the command line. Okay, and if you, for some reason, your Mel button isn't working, you can always go in here and edit it, and if you wanted, you could actually copy and paste right into here. If you had needed to change it or add to it, you could copy it right out. If you wanted it to deselect afterwards, you could just copy that and then add that to your code, and then it would do that. So now if I go back to the shelf tab here, I'll just hit Save All Shelves to make sure that updates. And now what you'll find, if I hit my Select All, it's going to select it and deselect my character. So I don't want that, otherwise that's not going to work. So go back to Edit. I'll get rid of that there, go back to Shelves and just save it again. Now when I hit my Select All, it's just going to select my character and not deselect it. Okay, so that's all you're going to be doing is creating Mel buttons. If I want Mel buttons to grab the upper part of my character, again, I'll select something, clear out my history up top here, deselect, and then I'm going to grab, start with, it does it in order too, so if I want it to select in a certain order, so say maybe my elbow, my other elbow, my hand, my other hand, and then my hip last. Okay, do that, save script to shelf. Again, that is this icon right here. Okay, boom. If you mouse over, you'll see it too, and I'll just call that up for shortcut. Mel button again, and now that will select the upper part of the character. Now I can grab him and translate. And see, it's selected in the same order, so the last selection is at the hips where I left it. Okay, if I had left it on the hand, then the move control would be on the hand. I kind of liked it in the hips, so I kind of did it that way. If you want to Z something out, like I was saying here, so say I wanted to Z out the character's whole core. I want to get rid of all those rotates throughout the body. This is where, again, I'd select, clear it out, deselect, and I'd start with the head and kind of work my way down and just select, and then shift select the neck and shift select the spine, next spine, the main hip control. So all 5 of those guys. And then I just go into the channel box here and actually click and drag to 0 out, type in a 0, hit enter. Now that zeroes out all the rotates on all those controls I have selected. See, translate stays at the hip because I didn't zero that. I'm only zeroing out the rotates. And there's my line of code, and I'll just create that, and I'll just call that Z core, like I like to call it. All right, okay, Mel. So that'll zero and mount that way. Okay. If you're keying something too, you can, with your character, as long as you know you have the whole character selected and nothing else in the rig, you can hit your S key to key something, obviously. And then obviously you can use that same selection, select all, to move your timing. But if you want to itemize, and some people like to make a list like this, so let me quickly show you this too. Say I just wanted to key certain controls and certain attributes. I can kind of do that through the channel box. Okay. Again, I'll start with something selected, clear it out, deselect. So I wanted to say deselect, and I want to say, hey, why don't we take the head, and I want to key just maybe the rotates on the head. So I'll select those, right click on those and say key selected. Okay, so now that's just going to set keys on the rotates of the head. I can go down to the neck and do the same. Key selected. I can grab the shoulders and decide what I want to key on those. I'm just going to use the rotates on those two, so I'll just key those. And then I can go to the eyes. I might as well key all of this stuff in here. Let's see what's in here. Yeah, I don't need the head file. See the stuff here that you don't want to set keys on. You can just highlight whatever you want to key and key select, right? The inside eye control, same thing. Key select. And I can go through the whole body this way. Check out. Sometimes when they're like the hands, I'll just select them together so I can key them both together. And say translates and rotates. Maybe I can command select to say, maybe I want to use the stretchy channel and the anti-pop and the length channels. Okay, and I can just cherry pick those and key selected those. Obviously I want the spines, so I would go through, I'm not going to translate the spine, so I just rotates. Hips, I want to translate and rotate that, key selected. Okay, and the hands and fingers and so on. You can go through the whole rig, and this is where, again, clearing this out first, starting with deselect, and then compiling a list of grab this control, key this attribute, not that attribute, and you can optimize and you know what basically you're creating. And then when you select all and move your timing, it won't matter. As long as you have everything, all the controls selected, you can move your timing. And then you would just select this once you were done, right? Actually, this is where it's easier just to hit Command A to select all of that, and then once again put that into a Mel button, name that, and just call that key all, right? And that would be a way to optimize what you decide to key on your scene. Depending on your instructors may want you to work more like this way, depending on who you're working with, or depending on your preference. And if you want to be specific about exactly what you're keying. Another way to protect what you're keying is you can actually lock out attributes. So if you lock out certain channels, so you don't want to use on the hips, you know, certain channels, you just right click and say lock selected. Okay. This way too, when you have it selected, even if you use just the select all and you hit your S key, if it's locked, you can't set a key on it. So you could start right out of the gate just locking attributes you're not going to use and use the select all button. Make sure you just grab your controls only. That is the one thing I'll just say. The reason why you might not want to use the S key to key your character, besides keying attributes maybe you don't want to key, is that you can break your rig if you're selecting more than just the controls. If for some reason you can select the joints or the geometry and start setting keys on that, or anything else inside of the rig, you can break your rig. So that's why it's really important to make sure you're just selecting, right, the control curves on the rig. Okay. All right, guys. See ya. Bye.